Hi, I'm your APRD 2006 TA, Myra Ferguson, and here is the video for the magazine spread assignment. I first want to start out by showing you a resource that you can use if you want to learn more about InDesign, and I would recommend Creative Pro. I showed it to you for Illustrator, but they really focus a lot on InDesign. So they have InDesign Magazine, they have InDesign Secrets Podcast, lots of information about InDesign. I recommend that you take a look at that. So let's jump over to the assignment. This is where you are going to create the magazine spread with InDesign, where you're going to select a topic of your choosing. So the reason that it's good to pick a topic that you know something about is because it can help inform choices for the design that you're making. So it could be, the colors that are related to it, the choices that you make for the images, the text, and so on. You don't have to write the content that you're going to use. You can source it from something online, or even if it was a project or something you did before, but you don't have to write something new yourself for this assignment. But it does need to be real content. You won't want it to be placeholder content, and when you place your content, you will be adding character and paragraph styles across the content to make it distinguishable what is the different parts of the text are, if it's body content or if it's subheads or the headline. Just make sure that when you're using the images that you add, that you are using images that don't have watermarks and that aren't clip art. Remember, clip art is just kind of a low quality type of artwork that really isn't good for an elevated type of magazine design. Be creative, so make use of colors. You can use backgrounds, you can use images in the backgrounds. Just make sure that it's something that is readable and will appeal to whoever your target audience would be. And this is going to be a 2-page spread. I'll show you how to set that up. And when you're done with your layout, you will be publishing it using Publish Online, which will upload it to Adobe servers. It will generate a URL, and you will copy and paste that URL into Canvas. Add that along with a thoughtful comment about the process. You could talk about the design choices that you made or any of the tools that you were using, or both, and that's going to be what you'll add to Canvas. Here's the rubric. Again, the understanding is were you able to use the tools to create the assignment, the 2-page spread with the facing pages? Were you able to use the paragraph styles, character styles to format the content, adding images, adding text wrap, and then using Publish Online. The application part of it is how did you incorporate color and design into this using the principles that you're learning for design in terms of, was the flow something that helped engage the reader? Is there repetition? Is it readable? Is the text something that has enough contrast between it and the background so that it can be seen easily? Those sorts of concepts. And then completion, just go back through the assignment just to make sure that everything in the bullet points and the whole assignment are included. Okay, so before I jump over to InDesign, I want to show you some of the images that I selected. These are from the free collection. Well, this initially was from the free collection, but it's actually no longer in the free collection, so you would have to pay for it. You can see where it says there's a price associated with it, but I've already licensed it, so it's letting me download it for free. And then this one is in the free collection for sure. And just make sure that when you're searching for artwork that you are using the free collection here. By default, it's going to show all, so just make sure you are set to free. Okay, so let's jump over into InDesign. And this is the layout that I'm going to show you how to make. So I have a large sort of hero image, a headline, I've got text that's formatted, I have an image that has text wrap applied, and then that's what I used Publish Online to make a 2-page spread, and I'll show you how to do that when we get to that point. Before we get started in creating the new document, I want to have you use the same workspace I am. I'm using Essentials Classic. Let me reset it so you can see what that looks like from the beginning. This is what it would be laid out from the very beginning with Essentials Classic. It gives you access to quite a few of the panels that you'll need. If you want more space, this is what I would recommend. So I'll zoom into the side over here. See how you can see the names, which is, it's actually pretty handy, but I'm going to make it a little bit more compressed. So now I just see the icons, and you can always pull that back out if you need to see what they are. Okay, so let's now start with a new document. I'll go to File, New Document, and that will open the new document dialog. I will go to the Print Intent, and I will select Letter. And then over here in the details, here are the units. You may not be familiar with the pica unit. Picas are used primarily in print production. There are 6 picas in an inch. And there are 12 points in a pica. So that would be 72 points per inch. So just to kind of give you an idea of what that size actually is. You can turn on rulers, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second when we get the new document. And here's the orientation. We are going to use a portrait orientation, but because there are facing pages, that's why the spread looks horizontal. So make sure that facing pages is selected. Here's where you're going to set the number of pages. I'm going to start with 2 pages, and I'm going to make it start on page number 2. Now the reason you start on page number 2 is because when you have facing pages, like say if you're making a book or a magazine, the first page is going to be the right hand side. So that's going to be like your cover. So in order to make the 2-page spread, it would actually be pages 2 and 3. So we're starting on page 2. Another thing you can add is columns if you want. I'm going to make this 2 columns so that it will automatically give me a guide to where I can create those columns. So I'll have 2 columns per page, and when I have that all set, I will click Create. So here's my document. You can see I've got the 2 pages side by side. If I click on the Pages panel, you can see here's where I've got page 2 and 3. If I were starting on page 1, there would be another icon before this, actually between the parent page and the pages here, and it would be on the right side. So just to give you an idea of what that looks like. If you didn't set the pages to start on page 2 when you created your document, you can go back to File, Document Setup, and here's where you can set the pages to start on page 2 if you didn't already. Now this document setup dialog does not give you the option of adding the columns, so I'll show you where to do that. If you want to add columns, that would be under the layout menu, and we'll go to margins and columns, and here's where you can set the number of columns right there. Okay, click OK. And so now what I want to do is add my images. I'll start with the first image. It's going to be a little bit like Photoshop in terms of placing an image. So I'm going to go to File, Place. I will navigate to the image that I want to use. Click Open. And it's going to load it on my cursor. Now this is where it starts to get different from Photoshop. It's loading it on my cursor, and if I want to place this on here, if I come up to the upper left corner, and if I click once, notice what it does. I'm going to zoom out so you can see. It has placed that image at 100% the size of that image. This is a high resolution image, so it's way larger than my 2-page spread. Well, I don't want it to do that. I could actually scale it if I wanted to. Actually, if you scale an image, I'm not really scaling it, I'm scaling the frame that contains it, and I'll explain that in just a minute. I could come over here and I hold down some modifier keys, Command, Option, Shift. That's going to scale it to the middle and scale it. If I don't need it to scale to the middle, I will release Option, and now I'm scaling it. But let me start from the very beginning part of placing it in case you want to scale it when you place it. I will go back to File and Place. And when I load it on my cursor, then instead of scaling it after I've placed it, I'm going to click and hold it in the upper left corner and then drag it out to where I want it to be. And this is going to scale it when I place it. So I could place it like here. it's going to go over onto the second page, but I can fix that in a minute. And the reason I wanted to show you this is because here's how I can show you how the difference between Photoshop and InDesign handle images. Well, Photoshop actually puts it in a container that you can scale. This is a container that you can crop the image with. So this is referred to as a frame, and you can think of it like a picture frame. So you have, you know, a backing and the glass on the front, and then you have an actual photograph in between, and so that photograph is sort of like the actual image that I'm placing into this frame. So if I were to click on this, this is the content grabber, so that lets me grab the content. You might not be able to see it, but you can see the edge over here, it's turned orange, and if I deselect it, click on it once, I'm in the frame. You can see that that's just the frame itself and not the content, and it's blue. If I look over in, let's go to Window Properties and open up the Properties panel, I want you to see a few differences here too. If I click on the frame, I have appearances that are related to the frame, so I could add stroke or fill. But if I want to select the image, now I'm on the image, I have things like opacity. I can change the opacity of the image. So, and you can also see up here the scale is different. So this is the scale of that image as it's placed into that frame. Now, like I said, I can also crop this. So I don't want this image to go onto page 2. So I'm going to use this arrow to drag it so that it's going to hide all of that content that's sort of the opacity has changed. As I release it, now you can see it's not available over here. If I click on this in the content grabber, you can see the orange outline for the image that's placed inside the frame extends and shows where the edge of that image actually is. There's a few other things I can do. If I want to change the size, here's my sizes over here. X and Y, that's that position from that upper left. I'm at 0, 0 here. Oh, and the rulers I was going to tell you about. This is by default. When you open up a new document, it's going to show it. If you want to see it, you can, if it's not showing, you can hide the rulers, or you can reveal them by the view under the view menu. And here's my width and my height, so I can change it. If I want to change this, I might make it 49p, that's the 49 picas, and then 1.2, so that's the size I know I want it to be. If I want to nudge this up, just the image inside the frame, I can click on it and just use my arrow keys to nudge it up a little bit more. Okay, so that's my image that I want to place on the first page, and now I'm going to get some text. So I'm going to go over to the type tool, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to click and just drag a little area where I want my headline to go, and I'll type in my headline from T's to Z's, and I'll highlight it, Command A, while it's still in the type tool, so I'm selecting the live type. There's already a font I know I want to use. You can look through your fonts through Adobe Fonts. Here, let me open this up so you can see. If I want to select some different fonts, remember we can still go through, this is very similar to Illustrator and to some extent Photoshop, they're about the same. You can go to the different classifications, you can go to Find More, and Find More again here. You can activate the fonts if you want to, but I know that the font that I want to use is Poppins. And I'm going to use Poppins Black Italic, and let's make this, make it 36 points. Okay, so if I release this now I can see I have that box there, but I don't see my type. Well, this is sort of a bit of a trick question. Why is it not showing? Well, if I triple click on this to highlight all my text with the type tool, my color for the text is up here. It's black, and so it's just not showing over my particular image. If I want to change the color, then I can change it with one of the swatches here, or I can use the eyedropper tool, and I'm going to sample a color from my teapot, and now you can see it's highlighted up here, and that's my headline now. And now let's start adding some text for my content, and I'm going to use the type tool again, and I'm going to draw a frame for my type. And I've already got some type that I have sourced. This is my content, and I'm just going to select it all, and I will copy it and come back into my document, and I'm going to paste it. Now, there was a lot more content than is showing up here, so let me show you a little bit about what's happening when I paste that. This first little icon that I want you to see here, as soon as I zoom in, it's gone away. It's to allow you to have some automatic text styling. We're going to be doing the text styling on our own, so you can play with it if you want, but I'm just going to show you how to style the text. The other thing I want you to see is this little red box over here, and this is the port. Typically the port is going to be blue, but when there is text that is in this text frame that is not available, so you're not seeing it, that's referred to as overset text. So that overset text is being indicated by this little red port that then, if I use the selection tool, I can come and click on the port, and then it loads that text onto my cursor, and I can draw another text frame. When I drag a new text frame out after clicking on a port, it's going to link these. So it's taking the text here, and what doesn't fit into this text frame is going to start putting it in here. So let's keep threading the text frames. I'm going to drag this up here and finish it there. You can see it snaps to those guides, and it does end here, but I do want to make the text also flow into here. As soon as I make it larger, it's going to need some space to expand. So here, if I look at the bottom, this is a normal port. So the port's just blue, but I can still make the text link to it, and so it's another threaded text frame. I'll click on it, and you can see it gives me that cursor appearance, that it's loaded on there, to let me know that that will be linked. And I'm just going to drag on this next one, and now I have all my threaded text frames. When I have them threaded, if you're not sure if they're threaded or not, while you have the selection tool selected, you can go to View Extras, Show the Text Threads, and you can see that the little lines come from the port to the next text frame that it's linking to, and here you can see the whole path of those. It gets a little bit in the way, so if you want to hide it, you can go back to Extras and hide the text frame, those text threads. Okay, now what I want to do is start styling my text. So I'm going to select all of this text. I just double clicked into the text frame so that it would convert to the type tool, and then I'm going to start styling it. So I'm still going to use the Poppins family, but I'm going to use Poppins regular, and I'm going to make it 14-point text. Let's see, 14. And I want you to see something else here. When you notice that here's the point size of the text, this is the leading. When there's leading that has parentheses around either side of it, it is auto leading. So it's kind of determining this is about how much space you might want. You can adjust it so that there's more or that there's less. I'm going to adjust it so that it is 16 point. Okay, so that looks pretty good. One more thing I'm going to do for my body text is up here is I'm going to give it space before. If you hover over these icons, if you're not sure what they are, it'll give you a tooltip. This is the space before, and I'm going to make it 1 pica. So that's going to give me a little space in between each of the different paragraphs. If I come over to, I want to see my my paragraph style. So I'm going to go to Window. Let's see, let's go to Styles, and let's go to Paragraph Styles. And what's happened is I've used this default basic paragraph style, and I've made some modifications. And if I hover over this, let me zoom out just a little bit so you can see. If I hover over it, you can see what these, it's kind of, I think it's going over the edge maybe a little bit. There, you can see. Okay, here are the overrides. It's the size is being changed, the font, the space before, all of those different attributes are being changed and to this basic paragraph style that is the default, and it's giving me this plus. So actually, if I want to see if I have style overrides, I can click it. You'll see that the text is highlighted, so it's red, but if I deselect the text, then you can see it puts it in this sort of cyan color to let me know everything I've applied here does not have its own character style or paragraph style that does not have an override. What I can do to fix this is I can create my own style. So I'm going to click on the plus button down here, click on paragraph style. Let's name this, and this is going to be body. And one thing I can see that I want to change is you can see all of these hyphens. I don't want mine hyphenated. You can keep the hyphens if you want, but I'm going to double click on that paragraph style on body, and it opens up this paragraph style options dialog where I can come over to the hyphenation area, and I can adjust the hyphenation if I want, or I'm just going to deselect it so it's not going to hyphenate anything. And that's how I want to update my paragraph style, and now you can see all of the hyphens are gone. And let's actually, since we have that override showing, let's go ahead and make a new paragraph style for this, and that's going to be my headline. And now I can start making some more changes here. One thing I want to do, I like this color, and I don't believe I added it to my swatches. So if I come over to my color swatches, see how I have these default color swatches listed. I want that gold color so I can apply it to my other text. So I'm going to click here to add a new swatch, and now it's got the values for the RGB to make it that goldish color, and I'll apply it later. So now let's go ahead and redefine this style, because you can see it's made a change there. And I will redefine that style, and then that override is gone. Okay, so I'm going to select this subhead, and then I'm going to make some changes to it. So let's make this semi-bold, and let's make it 20 on, say 24. Now I like the way this looks. That's about the size I want it, but look how it's pushing it down to the next line. One of the things that I can do with that is I can come up here and make some changes in some of these attributes. Now there's this tracking one. Tracking will adjust the size between the characters. I'm actually going to do this other one. If I hover over it, you can see that's the horizontal scale. If I change the horizontal scale down to, like, say 95, and let's hit return, now you can see that my title is now on one line. So let's see in our paragraph styles what's happening. It's modifying that body paragraph style. I want to create a new paragraph style for my subhead, so while it's selected, I'm just going to click here. It'll make a new paragraph style, and then I'm going to call this subhead, and I can just click it once actually to change the name. Let's see, there, I can just change it. If you double click it, it'll open up that paragraph style options, and you can make other changes. And then while I have a subhead paragraph style, I can find another subhead, just click on it, and now you can see it's applied that. Oh, I didn't actually change the color, did I? So let's go back to the title here. If I double click on subhead, then I can come to the colors. Let's see, here's the character color. Let's scroll down, and I'll go to, did I get it? Yep, okay, so there's my gold that I saved as a swatch. I'll click OK. It's updating that paragraph style, and now you can see both of the titles have been updated. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. One of the other things I can do is you can see, even though I've got the body style, the body paragraph style has a particular leading that is being applied. Some of the things that are happening here with the space before and the leading difference between this subhead and the body text, it's making the text not align together at the bottom. So this one's not all the way to the bottom, this one's all the way to the bottom, this one's higher than this one altogether. There's a way that I can fix this. So you know how you can justify text with a paragraph style, you can justify the text vertically as well. So let me show you what I would do. I'm using the selection tool to select that particular text frame. I'm going to go to Object, Text Frame Options, and here in this vertical justification section, right now by default it's set to top. I have a center option, a bottom option, and this justify option. So if I click the justify option, now it's gone to the bottom, and I'm going to click OK. So let me see if I can apply to the other three, and I'm just shift selecting as I click on each of those. I'll go back to Object, I'll go to the text frame options, and I'm going to set this to justify. Okay, so this one's pretty big here. It'll change a little bit when I place an image. Let's go ahead and place the image. I'm going to go to File, Place, and I'm going to use this one that I've already added a background or an alpha channel to. Let me click OK, and I'm going to drag that here, and so you can see that. Maybe I'll make it a little bit bigger, maybe 40, and it's maybe a little too much. So that's looking pretty good. Let me see if I can center that. I'm right clicking on the image and I can click fit. There's some other fitting options I can do. Let's see what happens if I do content aware fit. Now it's making it pretty small. So let's just scale it up. Okay, and I'll drag it back, and I'll nudge it with my arrow keys on my keyboard. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. The reason I'm using this one that has the alpha channel on it already, it's a PNG, so it's really, technically it's transparency, is that I can use that for InDesign to find the edge of it a little bit better when I want to apply the text wrap. So I'm going to I'm selecting the image that I've got. I'm going to go to Window and Text Wrap, and that's where I'm going to get this dialog. So let me scoot over just a little bit so you can see here. And by default, it's going to be on this one, no text wrap. This one is a text wrap for the bounding box alone. So if this image were square, so say I didn't have anything on here and there was interesting content on the side, I might do something like that so that it just wraps around the bounding box. This one though has a shape and I want it to wrap around that shape. So I'm going to click on the object shape, and then down below here you can see that the little link to constrain that is set. I'm going to make this, you know, as big as I want. You could do it at 1 pica. I might do it more depending on how it looks, and I'm going to have it wrap on both sides. But down here on this contour options, this is where I can make some other changes. So here I'm going to use alpha channel, which is actually going to use the transparency, which does a pretty good job of making it wrap around it. There's some other options you can try. You can try select subject. Let me show you what that looks like. It works better here. The initial image doesn't look as good because when I had the white before I took the white part off, it just needed that extra help because the edges are white, and so it didn't have enough contrast to really find it. You can, if you see in here, there's all these little dots. Those are anchor points, and you can adjust them so you can move them. They have handlebars just like the Bezier curves that you saw in Illustrator, and so if you need to manipulate that, you can. So once you do, that becomes a user modified path. There's some other options. You can see if it can detect the edges. It does an okay job. It looks like there's a few issues with some of it, but you can just see which option works the best for your content. And let me just actually jump over to Photoshop for just a minute so you can see here's what I did with this image. By default, it looked like this with the white background, and then there's all, you can use all the tools that you're familiar with in Photoshop to make a layer mask so that you can, brush where white where you want it to show and black where you don't. You can try some of the selection tools as well if that helps, and then you can create the layer mask. So that's just a recap on some of the removing the background. On a JPEG, if you do remove a background, so say we start here, there is an option to remove a background, but like I was saying, some of these auto tools don't work as well if you don't have a lot of contrast. So that's why I was drawing the layer mask. I made a selection and made the layer mask and modified it. Okay, so let's go back to InDesign, and here's the text frame. I want to make this a little bit larger of a wrap, just so that this last page or this last column doesn't have as many words, so it looks a little bit like it's spaced out too much. So I can fix that by coming into text wrap again, and while I have the image, select the image or the image frame, I'm going to increase this maybe to 1p6, and now you can see it's kind of fitting a little bit better, and you can also move it around up and down, see if that looks any better. Okay, and if this is the way that I like this magazine layout to look, then what I can do is, let's save this. I'll save as, file save as, and I'm going to go into the APRD-2006 folder. I'll go into InDesign, and let's save this as magazine spread. Okay, I already have this. Let's call it 1013 and save. Okay, so that will allow me to go back to it and change anything that I need to if I feel like I wanted to make a change on something. And then let's go ahead and share this out to publish online. I'm going to publish it by going to File, Publish Online, and there's a few tricky parts in the Publish Online dialog that I want you to see. Let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see. It should take the title. You can go to title. So this will be, let's do magazine spread 1013. And this is where the tricky part is that by default it's going to be all pages, which we want, but it's going to be single page. So it would make the left page and the right page come out separately. You want it to be set to, oh, it's not going to do special characters, that's why I didn't take it. So let's do magazine spread. Okay, and then we'll do magazine spread. And then if you want it to make it so that this text is not images, you can make it so that it's searchable live text, and that will also allow you to copy it. So let's click publish, and that's going to send it to publish online. Okay, and so what it's doing is it's uploading to Adobe servers, and when you see right here, it'll say copy this URL to share. That is what you will copy and paste into Canvas. If you want to take a look at the document, you can click to view it. Here it's going to load it, and here is the 2-page spread all together. There's a couple things I want to show you also. Let's go back. Let me close this. If I want to make a change, maybe I want to make this bigger, so I'm going to click on it, and if I hold Command and Shift and Option, it'll scale it from the center, maybe make it a little bit bigger. There, that's even nicer. Now I'll save it and republish this. So let's go to Publish Online again, and magazine spread, and I'm going to, this time, instead of creating a new document, I'm just going to click here to update the existing document, and I'll click publish, and that way it'll give me an option to make sure that, yes, I do want to make this new version of it, and it's going to publish it to that same URL. That way you don't have to change it, so you can just double click, or just double check it, click copy, and that's going to be the same URL. Okay, so let's close this. One of the things that I wanted to show you, things that I have seen in the past where people have had trouble with the with the text wrap in particular, is that if you don't have the image selected when you apply text wrap, what's going to happen is it's going to set that as the default. So if I don't have it selected and then I go to text wrap and then start making a change, every new object I apply will then apply that text wrap. So double check to make sure you have your text frame that you want to apply the text wrap selected, and then that will be what you apply text wrap to. Okay, another thing that I have seen an issue with in the past is confusion between the pages and the parent pages. So parent pages also used to be known as master pages, and they changed the name of it. So if you're working in the real world and somebody says, do this to the master page, they mean the parent page. It's just that they got used to the old name of it, but it is the same thing. Okay, so what's happened sometimes in the past is that someone will work on the parent page, and if you notice, here's that spread. It looks just like the page, right? So it can be super confusing. Just make sure when you're adding all your content that you are on pages 2 and 3 and you are not on the parent page. Unless you are trying to make something that applies to all of the content in your document, you don't need to apply anything to the parent page. It's just super handy so that every other page, every new page that you apply will inherit the content for the parent that is assigned to it. So you can see right now there's an A here. That's because it's inheriting the content from this particular parent, but there's nothing on there. So just make sure that you're working on your actual pages. Okay, so I hope that helps, and have a great week. If you have questions, you can email them to me, and I hope you enjoy this assignment. Thanks so much.